I think I'm going to show up in his or her life today as something absolutely incomprehensible, an unsolvable riddle, something very hard. Heartbreak. I think today's heartbreak, Now, I know it's not like that because that would imply a very cruel creator. A whimsical creator. And that I can't go with right now. But I also know that to keep my mind fixed on reality is what's up for me because the other way is just too painful. So then I get to play this game of hide and seek with God. So I'm learning now, as the mysteries and the confusions and the miseries of life sometimes, as they do, present themselves and the changes, to look at them and say, all right, come on, God. Come on out. I know you're in there. I remembered about 9 or so years ago that I did some research about redwood trees because I remembered the metaphor was so great and I wanted to bring it in today. So I went back to my notes and I found this great thing about redwood trees. Sequoia sempervirens. Yeah. Oh, thank you. At least one person appreciated my Latin. Anyway, they have an amazing ability to survive adverse conditions. This is due in part to a very large content of tannin inside the wood. And it gives the trees this remarkable resistance to things like fungus and beetles and diseases, and the bugs that would just chomp on them otherwise. And additionally, the thick fibrous bark has even a higher tannin content, which insulates them from things like the periodic catastrophic fires that sweep through the forest, takes out everything else, not the trees. Stuff happens, but they stand, And the trees, they've got this inner tannin, and they've got thick skin. Okay, you can see why I turned it into a sermon. Yeah, see? So, now maybe you don't know so much about tannin, because I certainly didn't know about tannin, so I looked it up, and I found out that it's used to clarify wine and beer. And one of the other uses, we make many uses of tannin, one of the other uses we have made of it in the old-fashioned photography world, because it's all digital today. But in old-fashioned photography, it's used, the substance is used to fix the dye so that the images stay stable, true to life. All right. So, in other words, if we are to be like the redwood forest and survive 2,000 years through fires, bugs, frost, and mildew, we have to have a high level of spiritual tannin in our consciousness. Something inside of us that keeps the image of reality stable, clarified, and fixed. And in addition, we need a thick skin. Now I'm talking about something inside of us that keeps us clear on who we are when the fire is ravaging everything around us. Something that fixes our gaze on truth and helps us withstand the uncertainties of life so that we can say, like the trees, when trouble comes our way, none of this has got anything to do with my spiritual nature and reality. It's just the marching of life and time, on and on and on. And inside of me witnessing all of this is something that is stayed fixed and true on my nature. See, then trees can be an example in this, impervious to the effects of bugs, beetles, fires, frost, and diseases and things and stuff, and stayed anchored. Another great image, stayed anchored. So what I get out of this is that wherever you come to harbor, drop your anchor there and call that place God and bless it. Because that's the rule. And it makes everything else work. That's just how it is. And the other way is too painful. So whatever you're looking at then, call that person, that place, or that situation God. And bless it. Because that's how it works. And the other way is too painful. See, now I want to be sure to start here so that you can understand with me that I am not saying, neither does Science of Mind teach, that you are to trivialize what you're going through. No way. I'm not saying, and neither does Science of Mind teach, that you should minimize your hardships or your difficulties or the difficulties or hardships of anybody around you. I'm saying that in this path that you have chosen for your life, you get to develop a thick skin. You get to practice the first commandment. And the way you do it, what comes out of that is that you get to return love for hatred. You get to practice giving back peace for anger, light for darkness. And that's how you keep your mind on reality. Easy to say. Not so easy to do. But possible. And highly rewarding. And it is how we keep the first commandment. So as I was digging around for the information on redwood trees in that set of notes from 1998, I couldn't help but notice that there was a reference there to September 1998. Oh, I remember it as if it was yesterday. September 1998, somebody threw a rock through the glass on the front of our administration wing in the Center for Spiritual Living. It was the third time in a very short period of time that somebody had hurled a rock and broken a glass in our building. And I remember my response at the time very clearly. I was really disappointed. And then I was angry. Then I was discouraged and felt helpless. And then I wanted revenge. And just like with the man at the airport I told you about last week who tried to steal my place in line, I remember getting a moment to stop the process of the mind making and go, you're not keeping your eye on God. You know, you're falling for it. It's a disguise. It's a really good one. You know? Wow. Come on, Edward. If this is the advanced curriculum, then do you or don't you believe that you have a responsibility to raise your consciousness up in this matter? See, do you remember last week I said the horse pill of metaphysics? Here it is. It's hard to swallow. It's just like forgiveness work. It can be hard to swallow. Because it feels like, I am getting to do all of the agonizing work. And what do they get? They're getting a prayer of forgiveness and love and peace and appreciation. What's with that? It's hard to swallow. But it is the rule. And that's how it works. And the other way is very painful. So I called at that time with the stone throwing. I called a practitioner for support, and she came out in the middle of the night with a board member, if I remember it correctly. And I remember asking her to lead us in a prayer of thanksgiving. For what? For the stone thrower.